and all the lights are clear all the way to the hospital or the police station or wherever they're going.
I think they kind of, not Tesla, but I think some areas they can detect when an ambulance is like coming or a police car, and the lights automatically change when but yeah, that would be cool if like Tesla came up with something.
That's probably not as true for small towns.
Yeah.
But every small town I've ever been in at least has one traffic light.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'll take that back. I've been in one that didn't have.
Oh yeah. Interesting.
That's pretty good. So what kind of work do you need to do, Michael, for those 100,000 Teslas that they bought? Do you need, what do you need to do specifically?
Yeah, so we have a computer program that decides where to put them, but there's these we have all these like previous things that we put in place. So like the computer program has some freedom, but then we tell it other things like we might get some news from someone at the company and say, we're going to tell the computer program to cap Florida at this many cars. We're going to say that we need at least this many cars in New Jersey. So we have sort of all these sort of restrictions, but aside from that, the computer kind of strategizes on where to put them based on how much revenue we would get or what their cost is and stuff like that. So it's kind of figuring out how we need to adjust those restrictions. So like if previously we said Florida could only have up to, I don't know, let's say 30,000 cars. Now do we need to change it now that we just bought all these Teslas? The answer. So figuring out how to change all that. But yeah.
So a lot of work for you, but you're still excited that your company bought a bunch of Teslas.
Yeah, I'm still happy about it. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Are you gonna get a Tesla? Do you get a? Why don't you get ask for a bonus Tesla? For you.
They will not. I'm gonna tell my boss that you said I should do that.
Yeah.
Get a bonus
at least
Tesla.
at least while you work there, and
don't I deserve at least one of those 100,000 Teslas?
Yeah, and then you can give it back after you're done working there. But at least while you're working there, a little bonus.
Yeah. So, I think there was a company, Spanx, like the CEO just gave everyone like a $10,000 bonus and like a trip to wherever they want or something. It was interesting, but I didn't read too much about the article.
Did you get that?
I did not get that.
So see, you need to get a little bonus. They need to show you that they like you.
Yes, they need to show me that.
Yeah, that you're a valued employee.
Yeah. Well, it's really weird. I just found out today. So this kind of changed the whole plan, but 50,000 of those 100,000, they're giving them to like Uber and Lyft. So like certain Uber drivers, like their car is too old or wrecked up that they can't really use it to be an Uber driver. Because like Uber has some restriction.
Hertz is giving cars to Uber and Lyft. I don't understand.
To rent, yeah.
Oh, to rent. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I mean, we've sold cars to other places before. Like we sold a lot to Enterprise. But right now, like there's such a shortage of cars that we don't want to sell any of our cars now. We're just holding on to them for dear life. But yeah.
And Tesla just their stock went up quite a bit. I don't know why exactly. I think their profit increased.
It's partly because of the deal that Michael's telling us about.
Oh yeah. No, it's because of that.
Yeah, could be as well. Yeah, that for sure. Yeah, but it increased quite a bit. I actually have some Tesla, very little, but
mine went up 218%.
Yeah, since the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not now, but yeah.
Nice.
No, maybe you should check it again. Did you check it recently? Because it just went up quite a bit. I think.
But I don't have my checker.
if you haven't checked it recently, I'm sure it went up quite a bit because it went up quite a bit.
It was up like 2% today, but I think it went up like 12% the day before. So yeah.
Yeah, it went up like considerably. Too bad I don't have more. But you know, it is what it is. This is like the greedy side of me. Oh, I want more. So I should just be happy that I have some. Should we start the podcast?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it.
Mhm.
So let's start our discussion tonight. So the first question, if you guys are okay with it, maybe we'll start with this first question, but you know, we can then talk about other things if you feel like talking about other things. Like you had a good question, Michael, the one from the previous group that you attended, so we could
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that as well. But you know, maybe we can start with the title question, which is specialization the key to success in life? And it's a big question. So, but what do you guys think about specialization versus generalized training, education in general, as a general question?
I think specialization is maybe a little overrated. Because yeah, I think in academia, specialization can get you promoted as a professor. You can do very well in academia if you're very, very specialized. Although I feel like it's kind of not as fun because if you're so boxed into your own corner, it's hard to, you know, communicate with other people as well. But as far as career-wise, I feel like it's kind of limiting after a certain point. So like at some point, like, so being specialized is good up to a point because it kind of makes you more valuable because there's not like maybe as many people that know that specific skill. So you can kind of contribute more value that way. But once you get so specialized, the problem is that the world keeps changing. And so that exact skill might not be needed in a couple of years. And it might limit your ability to just pursue other options. So that's kind of my short summary of it.
Yeah, no, that was a great, succinct, but very insightful reply, Michael.
Thank you, Brandon.
I would not have wanted to specialize in being a blacksmith in 1900 because I saw a picture one time of a street in New York City and like 1899 or something like that. And there were gobs of horses and 2 cars. And then I saw one that was 5 years later and it was all cars.
Mm.
You know, I don't know about the years, but the transition from horses to cars was very fast, at least in the urban areas.
That's an interesting, well, completely unrelated to what I just asked and what you're trying to say, but I'm just thinking that's a really interesting historical question, right? Like when did that transition happen between? I've always wondered about that. I guess I've never been that curious that I went and did some research, but it's an interesting, like when did that change from horses to cars?
I don't think it was with the invention of cars. It was a few years delayed, you know.
Yeah.
So,
It was making the production faster though, right? Like
yeah,
Henry Ford.
maybe the Model T. I don't really know, but it once the masses started buying cars, the transition was fast.
Was that maybe in the 20s? Was that when they came up with Model T and all that? Was
I
that
don't
in
know.
the
I think
20s?
it was before the 20s, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. I don't know if have you guys seen that show Peaky Blinders? That's set in the
My wife watched that. I didn't watch it.
Yeah, I mean it's also set in England, but I mean England is, you know, was pretty advanced at that time, still is. I mean, always has been, but so I think it would be on par with the US, I imagine. And they had lots of cars, at least in the show, you know. I know it's not a real life, but I think that's a pretty good, like, well-researched production. And then so that's the teens or early 20s. And I think, yeah, it's mostly cars already in that show. But I think there are some horses. So I think
Well,
the transition was probably maybe a little bit before that.
the thing is that if you specialized in being a blacksmith,
Yeah,
your
you were
your
screwed.
market disappeared in less than a decade.
Yeah, and technologies evolve faster now as well, than they did back then. I mean, things are changing very rapidly.
Yeah.
Well, funny enough, we're talking about horses and cars. Maybe cars will become obsolete pretty soon. Maybe not cars themselves, but drivable
Internal
car,
combustion engines.
and
Yeah.
that as well. You know, like, that raises the question of all the mechanics out there, you know, working with cars. They're gonna have to probably, I don't know how it works. I mean, electric cars
Well,
are a lot more complicated, right?
you still have to change tires and rotate tires, but you don't have to change oil.
Mhm.
Well, it's not only that. I mean, it's also the fact that they're now like computers. So it's not just about being a mechanic anymore. You have to be able to basically fix. It's like almost like fixing a smartphone, right? A very expensive smartphone, but they will have to fix also the mechanical, sorry, not the the
Well,
electric, the software, all
Battery.
that. Yeah,
and
battery.
this may
A
figure
number of issues that weren't issues before.
this may figure back into your original question, in that I don't understand how a computer works, but I do understand the principles that it operates under. And you know, if I were to crack open this phone, I couldn't make any sense out of, you know, all the circuitry. But I know that what it does is not magic. To many people, it's magic. It's indistinguishable from magic, you know.
Who?
Well, I know that I'm not any good at fixing printers, because my printer had a problem and I tried to fix it and I'm pretty sure I broke it. So, and same thing would happen with my cell phone.
That's the thing. The more advanced technology gets, the more we try to get people to fix it themselves. Like, I don't know. Like I feel like as much as technology is advancing, I still have a lot of problems with my computer. A lot of problems with the like printer. But like at work, just being able to set up my printer, or like being able to set up my new TV, or it's still not easy. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm incapable of fixing a printer, obviously, because I'm pretty sure I broke it. And apparently you can't really fix it, like you can't really take it to a place anymore, because they'll charge you way too much money. So it's pointless. You kind of just need, if you can't fix it, you just need to buy a new one. But yeah, so this point that people are more flex, especially like the point that you made at first, Michael, that, you know, people are more flexible, you know, when they have a more generalized education. But also the point that David was making with the horses, in some way. But so that point was, I don't know if you guys saw, I sent you a video, and he was also talking about that it was a TED Talk, and he was talking about the fact that having an initial, at least an initial general education, allows people also to train their mind in the way they learn things and the way they connect things, because they're better able to connect things and to be original, to adapt, in comparison to people that are very narrow, and they're narrow from the beginning because they never really branch out, so they're not really capable of making those transitions as easy. So people that have been
That's
educated in a
me.
way that is in a way that is very specific have trouble later on, to make that transition, to adapt, to connect things, to think in an interdisciplinary manner, whereas the other way around is easier. If you have a more open, wide, if you branch out from the beginning, then it's when you want to specialize, it's not so much of an issue.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like when I was in high school, in college, like all I did was math, right? I was very, very specialized. And this might also just be more about me personally, but um, it like when I entered the work world, it was like a complete shock to me, and like it felt very rough for me, but I had to eventually learn to adapt. And learn what like a working corporate environment is like. Um, but yeah, it was a very rough learning process for me. I feel like I wish I knew more about it like beforehand.
What do you think would have helped you in that situation?
Um, Maybe if I had a job in high school, maybe doing something at least related, I think that would have helped a lot. Um, Maybe if my parents had taught me a little bit more about it. Maybe if I had a few more friends that I could have learned from, or asked them about it. Um, yeah, yeah, I guess all that.
Yeah, no, I get it. Um,
So yeah, we're
um,
talking specialization. I didn't watch the TED Talk, but was he in favor of being a generalist or a specialist, or both?
well,
Or
so actually, the point of the TED Talk, so really, what he was saying is that sometimes when I don't remember exactly how he put it right now, but it's basically when it seems that people are falling behind, basically, sometimes that doesn't really mean much. They're not really falling behind. Or it's easier to get ahead later on in life, right? So he makes, for example, the comparison between well, he gives us a number of examples. One of the examples that
Federer and Woods.
yeah, I mean, that was kind of like a comparison that he made, because he was talking about how we have this paradigm, and I related to that because I actually watched a Tiger Woods documentary not so long ago, and I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's pretty good. It's a new documentary on HBO, talks about Tiger Woods, but basically Tiger Woods is the example of this kid that and you see that a lot with tennis players and golf players. His dad, from the age of 2, I think, basically started training him to play golf. His dad was a good golfer, not a world champion or anything like that, but I don't even know if he was a professional. I don't think so, but he was a good golfer. So he started training Tiger basically to be this golfing machine from the age of 2. That's all they did, basically. Like that was the father son interaction, and they did it like he was very like single mindedly focused on this one objective, to make his kid like this prodigy of golf. And I mean, to his credit, he succeeded. Obviously, I'm sure Tiger Woods had natural talent, but that was a big part of it. I mean, his dad basically trained him. It's like one of those movies that, like they pick up this boy or this girl, and they train them from the age of 4, to be this assassin, and then the movie's about this badass assassin who has been trained since they were kids to just be an absolute badass. Like so it's kind of like that, but with golf. And that's Tiger Woods' life. And that's the paradigm of the specialization, right? You specialize so much, but you dedicate your life to getting good at this one thing, and you become really good at that thing, and then you become successful. But then he says, well, that's all true, but then you also have Roger Federer's case, and Roger Federer is absolutely the opposite. He played like 20 sports growing up until he decided that he wanted to play tennis. And then he became the greatest tennis of all time. They're more or less from the same generation. So and that's also something, this paradigm of the athlete that specializes and becomes really good. That's only true to a certain extent, because that's not always the case, like Federer case shows. But also there's another thing that is very important. And I think that's a great point that he makes. I hadn't thought about it on those terms. Sports are actually what he calls, I think it's easy or forgiving learning environments, because basically what he means by that is that it's always the same, right? You always have the same rules. There are no real variations. You always know exactly what you need to do every single time. If you mess it up, you have a coach or someone who's helping you. They can give you precise feedback, or fairly precise feedback all the time, and you can always see, like, if you're improving, if you're not improving. So it's very clear, right? So that's a forgiving learning environment. On the other hand, most things in life are not a forgiving learning environment. Most things in life are what he calls a wicked learning environment, which basically means it's not that straightforward, and you don't have precise instructions, you don't have precise rules, and things change all the time, right? So that's most of the things in life that it's not like sports. It's a very different learning process. So, and in those cases, the specialization paradigm works even worse, because you can't adapt very well when you're so specialized from the beginning.
That's really interesting, because a lot of things like for example, chess, that's a forgiving learning environment.
He gives that example as well, chess. Yeah.
And more of the top chess players, like ever since they were young, that's like all they did was chess, right? And they just nothing, every ounce of their brain, ever since an early age is spent doing chess, and that's how they get to the top. And now an issue with that, I would say, is that if you don't make it to the very, very chess, you have to be like one of the best in the world to make a living on it. If you're not one of the best in the world, then you have to try something else. And then that goes back to being flexible and not so specialized. I would say for most situations in the world, I think flexibility is the better one. Yeah.
Adam Savage also has a very good video about being a generalist.
Generalist. Yeah.
I'll post that.
Good. Yeah. Do that. Yeah.
You guys know who Adam Savage is?
I don't know. Tell us.
Mythbusters. You remember that?
I've never heard of him.
I've heard of Mythbusters.
No,
I've
I
heard
don't
of
think.
Mythbusters, but I don't watch it much. But yeah.
Okay. Well, you might not appreciate Adam Savage, but I'll try.
Okay.
He's a really
neat
guy. The Mythbusters, they would take a situation that you might see in the movies, or a myth that's popular, and they would test it. For example, you know how a lot of times there'll be in movies chase scenes where a guy is holding on to the hood of a car, and they tried this out, and it turns out you can't do that.
What happens? You fall right away?
They throw you off right away. So, in other words, and sometimes they would say it's a good myth, and sometimes they would say no, it's not true. So, but I will post that.
Yeah, like Hollywood, it's like a parallel reality almost, right? Because
Oh
you
yeah.
start seeing things in movies and you think that's real life, like even like in terms of just physics, just like, or actions, things that people do, and in real life it's actually those things don't happen, but you think they happen because you see the movies. Like martial arts is an example of that, right? For a long time, it seemed like that was real fighting, and then they start organizing real fights that you can watch, like the UFC and kickboxing, all that. It looks very different from all those Hollywood martial arts movies. That's just an example, but all those action movies, like for example, those movies also like Rambo, and the guy kills like 300 guys by himself. That's not real life, because you can't do that. You got shot, it
Well,
doesn't
you
work.
know, you know, I often wonder if it damages our society. I enjoy a good shoot 'em up, bang bang as much as the next guy, but I often wonder if it damages us as a culture
I think
to to absorb
it's,
so
yeah.
much fiction where people, the characters solve their problems with fists and guns, because I don't solve any of my problems that way. You know,
That's a good thing.
that's why I would not make a good reality show. So, but this guy Adam Savage, I will post the link in the Facebook thing. Uh, and you've never heard of him, but you might recognize him. I don't know. But even if you don't, uh, he is very, very well known. In fact, he traveled all over the United States with a guy named Michael Stevens, who has a YouTube channel called Vsauce. I don't know.
Oh,
You guys,
Vsauce. Yeah, I
yeah.
know Vsauce.
He traveled the United States. He went on tour with Michael Stevens and did a show called Brain Candy, and where they, I guess, I don't know. I had a reservation, but then COVID hit. So,
Yeah, I saw Vsauce did the video that you sent on like, are there chairs? Is there? Yeah, I love that video. Did you
yeah,
watch it?
he's hilarious.
Did you watch that video?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing. It's incredible.
yeah.
Yeah. Are there chairs? Bruno, are there chairs?
I am not sure. I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Do chairs exist?
Well, I'm sitting on one right now, so I imagine
He
they
would
do.
beg to differ. Watch his video.
Okay.
Yeah. If you took the chair you're sitting on and you removed an atom, is it still a chair?
I don't know, man.
If you remove another atom, is it still a chair? How many atoms do you need to remove before it's no longer a chair?
I don't know. You get into like deep metaphysics. If you keep asking those questions, I don't know. Like I'm pretty sure a chair exists, but
Are you sure?
He makes it.
but we can have a
very
whole
entertaining.
metaphysical discussion about that, and yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's funny. So specialization.
Well, like the problem with I think we all agree that specialization in general is not as good as being more general. But the problem with that as well is, well, just playing the devil's advocate, in our society, because our society really emphasizes specialization, right? So if you don't specialize at some point, you find it hard to fit into society,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like the problem with fighting specialization, that you might find yourself in a difficult spot. It's hard to fit in sometimes if you don't specialize.
So yeah, I would actually say most people should be more specialized. I would say like the majority of people would benefit from more specialization, but I feel like there's a class of people, I don't know, like maybe like university educated, intent on, making a lot of money, like intent on, having a really good profession or whatever. there's this class of people, and I feel like often those people get caught up in specialization when they could be more generalized. So I feel like it depends where you are. Like if you're just working as a mechanic, maybe it would be good to be more specialized. Like if you could become like an expert mechanic on a certain kind of car, like a Mercedes mechanic, or you could start learning other I think it depends who you are. I think some people could benefit from being more specialized, and a lot of others are too specialized and could benefit from being more general. But I think the university system encourages a high level of specialization, and I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing.
Well, it does and it doesn't. It does in the sense of research. It really emphasizes specialization to its detriment, I think, because a lot of the novel discoveries, the insights come from
Multiple fields.
like connecting concepts that are already there. Like you need to have a broader picture, right, in order to see a lot of those things. So, and that's like fairly, there are several examples of that. So in fact, in that same video that I was mentioning, he was saying how usually the top researchers, the ones that won Nobel Prizes and all that, they have a generalist facet to them, and that's
They have hobbies.
They have a lot of hobbies. They're much more likely. I think, in fact, that's how he quantified it. Top scientists or top researchers that go on to win Nobel Prizes and stuff like that. Almost all of them have hobbies, and they have a lot of hobbies, and that shows you how the mind, that kind of mind that makes a breakthrough. You can't really just be too focused on one thing. You need to open up your mind, right, in order to gain a higher understanding and to make discoveries. You kind of like, you can't be too specialized if you want to be top.
Albert Einstein played the violin, and he was very good.
Yeah, there you go.
And I think it's also not just about being successful, but feeling good. It feels good to try new things, Yeah. Like if it's healthier to have a mix of hobbies rather than just focusing on one thing intensely.
Yeah, I'm taking a kind of a pragmatic approach here because, we're pressured to being pragmatic, I guess, by life and by society. But certainly, I think that's a good point. I think psychologically, it's, as a human being, right? It's much more satisfying in general as a human being to be a generalist than a specialist.
Yeah,
I would say. At least for me, I think that's, being a well-rounded individual. I think that's the ideal human being, and you're so much richer. Your life is so much richer.
and it's easier to connect with others. You have more that you can connect with others about if you're a generalist.
Absolutely, yeah. If you only really care about one thing in life, yeah, you're a pretty boring person at the end. Maybe you're very successful, but you're gonna be a little bit of a boring person. No, it's kind of like no way around it.
Yeah, I feel like for salespeople, it's really good to have a little bit of knowledge about everything, because whoever your customer ends up being, it increases the chance that you'll have like something to connect with them on. Yeah,
that's true.
You're more able to see things from their point of view, and not just a salesperson, but just anyone in general, really. Yeah.
I think it's good, right? It's good for society to have people that have broad interests, because then, people can connect with each other in an easier way, in a more successful way.
And I actually think that's one of the issues with our society today, is that this isn't exactly on like the topic of specialization, but like people are so in their own worlds that they have trouble like relating and empathizing to different kinds of people, just because our lifestyles can be very, very different. But yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah, like
the way that society is structured as well, like if you have this life of, you work 40 hours a week, and you do the same thing 40 hours a week. And then a lot of the times, if people have a family, it's not like you have a lot of extra time, you just gotta kind of like take care of your family.
mhm.
So there's not a lot of time left to cultivate other interests.
Yeah.
And then whatever time is left nowadays, realistically, well, there are people out there that manage to kind of like make time, but a lot of time goes into just like day to day, tasks, like necessary tasks, and television, Netflix, and video games, whatever. Like we have all these things that are, yeah, they're fantastic, but they're also time sucks, and these are at least enjoyable things. But then there's stuff like social media, right? They're just like, like gossiping and looking at each other's pictures and feeling jealous of each other and all that, and that, people like looking at their phone, that takes a lot of time as well, free time that they don't have a lot of to start with. So it doesn't leave a whole lot of time for people to cultivate interests.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of it too, like what I've seen, I guess I can't just make tons of generalizations because, yeah, people are in all sorts of different situations. But like working in a job that uses a computer, I find that like a lot of companies, they want you to constantly be checking it, even like after hours. So that kind of takes
You're
up a
not
little bit
supposed
more.
to do that.
You're not supposed to, but
No.
like a lot of bosses
Unless
expect
you're a
it,
teacher, then it's okay.
then it's okay. But yeah, like even when you're on vacation, like a lot of bosses, they're like, oh, I really need this, got
So
it.
they're expecting you, even if you're not at work or if you're on vacation, they're still expecting you to
If
check your phone all the time.
if
A
your
lot of the time,
boss
yes.
if your boss emails you on the weekend or during your off hours,
Yeah.
you're supposed to be paid for that time.
Really?
Oh yeah.
You can be
Well,
like a
well,
lawyer, like you answer the email, but then you also bill him.
Unless you're a teacher.
well, doesn't it depend like if your job is like a labor job, a salaried job versus like an hourly wage? Like let's say
Uh,
you're a mechanic and you're paid hourly. If you're working on the weekend, that should,
maybe.
yeah.
However, I remember, I think it was 2014 or 2015 or so, there was that regulation that went into effect that even if you're salaried, if you work more than 40 hours for so many weeks out of a year, that your employer has to pay you overtime.
That's very, very hard to enforce
And
because
then about a week later, they said, unless you're a teacher.
unless you're a teacher, oh man.
Yeah, because
But that,
if you're a teacher, I mean, that doesn't work because obviously you're going to have to do prep time. You're going to have to prepare stuff. That
Now, what it suggests to me is that the individuals who crafted and made and supported that law until it got passed didn't really think it through.
but it's very hard to make a
Because they
law
had to
around
backtrack.
that. It's I feel like it's very hard to enforce because how could you prove like like even if you did work extra, your boss could say, well, I didn't make you do it, you chose to do it, or like
Then you show him the email he sent you on Sunday night.
But he could say you didn't have to. He could say I wasn't asking you to work on the weekend. Like he might want you to on
Yeah,
Monday.
Let's read the email, shall we?
No, but basically he might.
I want this first thing Monday morning.
I want to. Yeah, he might want you to give it to him at 8:30 on Monday morning, but it might take like 4 hours to do. Right. So let's say he sends you an email saying, I want this 8:30 Monday morning, but it takes 4 hours to do. Well, you're kind of screwed, right? Or he might say, well, I think it should have taken a half hour, you know?
No, but it's pretty clear at that point, you know, then you can assess, you know, like this task, will it take half an hour or 4 hours, you know, and you can more or less assess it. And then obviously in that
but
case,
it's so vague. It's so vague how long an assignment should take.
I'm not making this up.
Yeah,
it is a law or a regulation.
But I don't think it's enforceable. Like I think there's very little chance an employee would be able to come.
Being enforceable has never been an impediment to passing a law.
Never. Yeah.
I live in a state where they passed a law that said that transgendered people couldn't use the restroom of a gender other than the one they were born in. And I thought,
how are they going to enforce that?
Are they going to have police at all the restrooms in the state checking genitals before you go in?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
And who's going to train the police? You know, because sometimes even doctors are not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes they have to do tests. Yeah, do tests to determine the gender of the person. But so not for most people, but maybe like 1%. It's like then there's the whole thing on like intersex people and all that. But yeah, like I feel like a law like that is very hard to enforce. Like your manager could always say, now, like, I just expect you to work 40 hours, but you know, work really efficiently, you know, and like what if?
As I understand it, the rules about overtime for hourly people are fairly well enforced. There may
if
be
it's like a labor job, so like let's say it's a job where it's like very clear, like let's say a driver, right? Like if you're a truck driver, you're either actually even then they try to get away with making drivers work longer hours. But like let's say you're a job where you literally must be in the office to do that job. And let's say it's like for some jobs it's a lot clearer than others. Like if you work at a restaurant, but even if you work at like a restaurant, let's say, like they might ask you to clean up, and there might be a lot of stuff to clean up, and they might say, I only want you to work till this point, but you might really have to work later to get it done. So it's like it's not that easy to enforce. But yeah. I wish there was a better way to enforce it. Like I wish there was a way to frame the law so that, you know, you could enforce it like.
Well, I mean, if the law exists, I think it is enforceable, but it's a matter of, you know, you have to sue your employer in that case, you know, if it comes to that. I mean, if it's really not being enforced and you get fired, say you get fired, and then you sue your employer, and then you gotta win the lawsuit and all that, you know. I mean, it's enforceable. I mean, but certainly it's complicated. It can be complicated.
But yeah, they have to very explicitly say work hours. Like they can't just imply it. Like let's say like most employers, like they would hint at it, say, hey, we really need to get this thing done. This is really, really important. Hey, Raul.
Hey, Raul, how's it going? I'm glad that you were able to join us, even if it's for a little bit.
Oh, that's
great. Yeah.
But we're talking overtime laws. But
Oh, okay.
I was saying, yeah, most employers will hint at it. This is really important. We really need this, or work with a sense of urgency. But as long as they don't explicitly say you need to work overtime, yeah, you can't really do much about it.
Mhm.
Let's since Raul just got here, maybe we can switch to a different topic, change gears a little bit. Raul, do you have anything specifically that you would like to discuss?
No, not at the moment. None that I can think of.
All right,
You know,
let me ask you something.
let's go with something, the topic that you've prepped for or thought about. Yeah.
No, I'll ask a completely different question. What is beauty? Is beauty subjective or objective? And we can talk about beauty a little bit. Like we have half an hour or so. So it's a completely different topic. But I also watched a video and today on that because I wasn't really sure about the topic. But interestingly, in this video, couple different things. One thing is that there seems to be a number of traits that objectively make people more attractive. One of those traits is, for example, proportionality. Can you guys hear me? I think
Yeah.
my internet.
You froze for just like a split second. Oh, now you just froze again.
Yeah.
Sorry, did I stop?
Yeah, just the video stopped for a few seconds, but I thought the audio just kept on going.
Oh, okay. So proportionality, for example, that it seems to be like an objective characteristic that makes someone seem more attractive to other people. So there seem to be some characteristics. Also, basically when you mix a bunch of different people and you create sort of like this generic portrait, like it's a composite. When you make like composite portraits, those portraits seem to be, as a general rule, they seem to be attractive to people more so than specific people in general. And in this video, they were saying it's probably because they gather a bunch of characteristics that are common to a bunch of people, and that tends to equate to being attractive, because it's more like there are more characteristics that the group finds acceptable or something like that. But in any case, my main point is, do you guys think that it's mostly objective or subjective? And I guess beauty is not just a person, right? It can be also a landscape. It can be a work of art, you know?
Yeah.
So
We're just talking physical
it's a question
beauty?
that has
I
been
mean-
debated for a long time. Sorry, go ahead.
I think beauty is, if it's objective at all, it's probably just 1% objective and 99% subjective.
Really?
That's what I truly believe, that, and I would say that's really just a belief at this point, this feeling. I'm very skeptical of supposedly these psychological studies, because they have a very hard time separating nurture effects from nature effects, cultural from whatever, instinctual or, effect on what is beautiful. And even when they say that, oh, symmetry, it seems like a test of 45 or whatever, 500 subjects or whatever, seems to point towards symmetry as something that is important, as a important component of physical beauty, and yet there are celebrities who are actually thought to be attractive because their faces are not symmetric. And in fact, there's some experiments that they do a mirror image right across the middle and then test people. And they actually find that those with a mirror image composite portrait are found to be not as attractive as their actual,
There's a
full
point of
face
diminishing return.
picture. Yeah, so
Okay.
I don't know. It looks like it's subjective.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Good. So we have two different perspectives. I'm not saying necessarily that beauty is objective. I was trying to say what they were saying in the video, but
Yeah.
but that's good that we have a different perspective.
Right.
Well, I think we could ask, like, but by objective, do we mean that humans, a large percentage of humans agree on it? And does that make something objective? Like, yeah, what do we mean by objective? Do we mean by objective, like, in the sense of like math, or do we mean it in the sense of?
I guess it's a human from a human perspective, because if you ask a chimpanzee, the chimpanzee
Yeah.
probably thinks the other chimpanzee,
Yeah.
the male
Yeah.
chimpanzee thinks the female chimpanzee is attractive, right?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
what is meant by objective is a standard that is independent of the cultural setting, independent of the experiences of the beholder, that it's almost like it's a genetic
But it's
setting.
all human. Is it human based or
Well,
even beyond?
let's go
It's
with
gotta be
human,
human based. Yeah.
because it's I mean, well, but you
It's
can
kind of hard
by
for
ask,
us to go with anything else.
Yeah, yeah.
no, but like actually that's an interesting question, because by asking that question, you just made me think of something. Maybe there are different kinds of beauties, because
Mhm.
look, if we're talking about another person, let's say we're all males here. Let's talk about, if we're talking about, what makes a woman beautiful, that might not be the same thing as if we're all talking here about what makes a building beautiful, for example, or
Right.
a
work of art. Yeah.
work of art, beautiful. So those can be very different. We kind of like think about beauty in general, but maybe those are not the same thing, because
Yeah.
when you look at the woman, we are being influenced by biological factors that
Right.
don't play into those other examples, right? So maybe we're not talking really about the same thing.
Yeah, it's probably different, because if you're talking, okay, let's say for the meantime, just mean the same thing by beauty and attractiveness, although I think that's different.
Yeah, let me just to make myself more clear, because maybe it wasn't super clear, but what I'm saying is that when we say a woman is beautiful, and when we say this building, for example, is beautiful, maybe we're talking about different things.
Yeah, they're different.
That's
things,
what I mean.
think. Absolutely, because if it's a criteria for women thinking men are handsome, or men thinking a woman is handsome, or it could be different. It's not binary, especially nowadays. There's a lot of something evolutionary sex selection things going on there, and reproductive selection going on there, and so there's probably a lot of wiring or instinctive behavior that affects what a person finds to be beautiful or attractive. And I would concede that it might be not idiosyncratic. It might be a lot of same species who probably think or react that way in general.
Yeah, because there was one thing, like one example that really highlights that is that I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but they were saying they brought up some examples, like I don't remember exactly what it was, but basically there are some features in women that males tend to find attractive, some features or features that show that the woman in question is mature enough that
Right.
she's probably fertile.
Right.
Also, but there are other features that show that she's not too old.
Yeah.
So we find attractive something that kind of like gathers both of those sets of features, because that means that the woman is in basically the right stage. And then another thing, basically things that shows us that women are fertile
Right.
tend to like biologically make us think that they're more attractive, basically. And that, that kind of like biology doesn't go into us looking at a building and thinking, well, that's
Yeah.
a beautiful building.
Exactly.
So that's why, I think your question was good, Michael, because maybe, beauty is not one thing. We just get confused and we think it's the same thing, but it's not really.
No.
Yeah, I think beauty is just whatever we feel is beautiful. Like, I don't think there is objective beauty.
No.
Yeah.
So what do we mean by beautiful then?
Just it makes us feel good.
Yeah, so it's pleasing.
Well, is a delicious piece of pizza beautiful? I guess probably not. I guess beauty.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. I think we'll have to think about that for a while.
Maybe that's how some people work.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I
don't think so.
I think beauty is like often I think beauty is something that combines a lot of senses at once, but in like I think beauty and simplicity go together, and also beauty and utility. So I think when simplicity and utility meet, that's kind of beauty in a way.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about whether simplicity is, because there are some cultures where I think it's safe to say that, for example, the Japanese appreciate simplicity, and probably a lot of other cultures. That's just an example. You just look at the artwork and the architecture, that they do have a feeling for things that are just well, on the other hand, a lot of, especially tropical cultures, they really enjoy this profuse, busy, works of art or scenery, the way they paint their houses, the way they paint their, I grew up in such a culture, and it's just everything is bursting in color, and most people cannot leave, for example, if they're painting their whatever backyard swing set, they can't leave it alone with just one plain color, and it's got to have flourish here, a flourish there, and it's a totally different aesthetic.
It's trying to create a certain feeling or like a certain vibe within you. So usually we don't call food beautiful.
Yeah.
And usually we don't. There's like certain things that,
unless you're hungry.
Yeah.
Unless you're really, really hungry.
But this is truly a strange topic, because like we don't call food beautiful, but at the same time we call a painting of food beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because I think beauty right now is mainly a visual and probably auditory thing.
Yeah, because music can be beautiful.
It's music and visual art that we find beautiful, and performative
and math
art,
too. Like math isn't visual, but math.
Yeah.
I think it's just the way. It's just the English language. We just decide how we want to use the word. But math can be beautiful. Yeah.
That's stretching it, right?
Right.
That's
I think that's
only for me.
That's only I think that's a metaphor.
Yes.
But I can see where
you're getting confused because it's a metaphor. Yeah, but I think that's even more different.
Yeah, because they also use elegant and and I completely agree that you can, especially an elegant proof, an elegant theorem is you can see that it's very appealing. It's like, whoa, how could that, but anyway.
And that's like wildly subjective, right? Because you need to be like a math nerd basically to have that opinion. If you show it to me, I'll just feel somewhat
Yeah.
somewhat
I am-
molested by
I
it,
am not a
because
math
it's too
nerd, and I have
complicated.
done it.
Yeah. But have you seen those fractal videos where they take a fractal and they keep
Sure.
zooming in more and
Sure.
more?
Mandelbrot. Yeah.
Mandelbrot
Yeah.
set. Yeah. Maybe you guys could maybe I feel like that's something that anyone could find beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe beauty is associated with the feeling that you essentially
Yes.
feel when you look at
Oh,
something.
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
Michael might feel aroused by looking at this math equation, and I feel anxious. So it's a very different reaction.
That's why, we just go to show beauty is very subjective.
Yeah, I mean, a car mechanic might think a car is beautiful, or like even a tool, like
Cars is a good example. Cars is a good, like, why do we find cars beautiful?
or furniture, like
I suspect that even industry professionals don't know
They don't
what makes a
know.
car beautiful. And
Right.
the example I'm thinking of is the 65 Mustang
Mhm.
was absolutely and still is a beautiful car. And subsequent models of it were garbage. And that suggests to me that the people who designed it did not know what they
Right.
had.
Right.
They didn't understand what made it attractive to so
Yeah.
many people.
Yeah.
But there are some brands, or makes. Mustang, I don't think is one of them, but like Ferrari, for example, they consistently deliver beautiful, like what I might call a beautiful car, but I'm not really sure exactly why I think those cars are beautiful. Like, is that why?
I would beg to disagree, because there are some Ferrari models which I would say what did you do? That's just perfectly ugly car. How
really?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure I've ever looked at a Ferrari and thought
Yeah, I've seen one that I said, "Oh my God, why did you do that?" And
really,
because, yeah,
that would be that's kind of a tragedy in itself. If you have a Ferrari and someone thinks the Ferrari is ugly,
yeah,
that's very tragic.
yeah, because it's subjective. It's also part of what what you would expect a Ferrari should look like, and
Well, what I don't understand necessarily is why we think it's beautiful. It's a piece of machinery, so
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be necessarily something. It's a machine, so you wouldn't necessarily call a machine beautiful. But for some reason, I don't know if it's what's associated with the mystique of a Ferrari. I don't know if that plays into it.
We might understand this better, your point, if we could zero in on something we all agree is beautiful.
So
yeah.
well, okay. Well, I don't know.
let me see.
Like an object, you mean?
Yeah. I mean,
The Mona Lisa. I personally don't care at all about the Mona Lisa.
See, the Mona Lisa is actually, that's a strange one, because it's not a particularly beautiful painting, is it?
No.
Yeah.
It's
well, the subject may not be beautiful, but the technique is unbelievable.
Yes.
I mean,
but I think you need to have a certain level of understanding to understand that.
A little stroke of one color.
Yeah, like a lot of beauty.
What he done is a bit of stroke of another color, just to try to get the skin right.
A lot of beauty, you have to be experienced in the field before you can know why it's beautiful. Like music, math, art, cars. Like, it doesn't become beautiful until you know the field well. Yeah.
Well, in a sport, for example, like when I look at a great goal, for example, in a soccer match, that's an interesting consideration, because for example, if I see a beautiful goal, that can have an aesthetic value in itself.
Right.
But it would be interesting for me to ask, for example, someone like David or Michael. Roll, do you care about soccer?
Oh yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay, so not you. So if we ask
Oh,
David,
sorry.
David or Michael, no, I mean it's a good thing.
Yeah.
David and Michael are missing out, but they don't like soccer. So it would be interesting, like, to see if you look at a beautiful goal, like, have you seen like beautiful goal in soccer and thought, well, that's beautiful.
Like a
Yeah,
bicycle
beauty
kick.
and no, I know what you mean. Beauty
People
in
who-
soccer, basket. Yeah.
People who excel in a form of music or a sport or a craft, even if I'm not drawn to that sport or that craft or that genre of music in general, to a certain extent, I think I can recognize excellence in some
Yes.
areas.
Mhm.
And I find that beautiful no matter what the area is.
But
For example, I really like Patsy Cline, but I'm not a fan of country music,
Mhm.
you know.
well, but see, I for example, I watch American football as well. I don't find it aesthetically beautiful, necessarily. Like when there's a great touchdown, yes, I mean, it's cool, right? But I don't necessarily see the aesthetic value to it. Like soccer, it's more aesthetically
Aesthetic. Yeah.
pleasing, like when you see a beautiful goal, like when someone strikes the ball and there's a curve, and then he goes in like on the right hand corner, and it's perfect, and the goalkeeper's flying after the ball, he can't get there. There's a certain, like, it's like almost like a dance in slow motion. Whereas I don't see that like in a throw. Like, yeah, it's a cool throw, it's like, very cool, but it's not like the same poetry. And I don't know if it's because I'm biased.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree with you.
So I think in sport,
because
you think I'm biased? Because that's the question I'm asking.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. For example, I'm not a particularly huge football fan, but I saw a reel once where Gale Sayers ran a football,
Right.
a kickoff back, all the way back. And he ran through countless people who were trying to tackle him. I think that was beautiful in execution,
Mhm.
And if you've never seen that, it's incredible.
Yeah.
But in other words, the things you were seeing in soccer, people can see in other sports.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. I think also Michael is right in that you need to know
I knocked my camera over.
more than beyond a what do you call a shallow knowledge of the genre to appreciate beauty in it. For example, if you don't know enough or watch enough American football, you don't understand, for example, what's beautiful about, for example, a touchdown pass or something.
I think you could. So I think sorry. I'll let you know.
Just let me, because when I first started, I didn't grow up watching or playing soccer. I just got into it because that was my son's sport growing up, and at first I really didn't appreciate it. I thought it was just people kicking a ball around, and then you keep watching, and then you learn the nuances, and you see a move that you say that's not easy. That's not something that's done regularly, and I used to think, oh, what's so exciting about a 1-0 game, a 1-0 or 2-0 or 2-1 game, and then you watch a game that's almost all defense, and then you start appreciating it. And so I still can't appreciate baseball, but I just take people's word for it when they say, "Oh, that was a great game. That was masterfully pitched," and fine, I'll take your word for it. I don't think you're making that up.
Well, baseball though, even someone who doesn't really understand baseball like myself, I can still go to a game and find some things pretty like cool, like a home run is pretty instinctive. You see how he strikes the ball and how he hits the ball and like how far the ball goes. I mean, I think you can see that's amazing, even though you don't really understand the sport.
Right.
But Michael, go ahead. We kept interrupting you. Sorry.
I know, it's all right. But yeah, I feel like in sports, beauty is kind of like when you're making it's like every effort in the play was needed in order to achieve the outcome. So it's like, kind of like David said, when he catches the ball in the back of the end zone, dodges one tackler, does a spin move, curves this way, does a stiff arm, and then finally in the end gets a touchdown. It's like every component, everything he did was needed in order to make that work. If he didn't do this one stiff arm, if he didn't do this one spin move, if he didn't go this way, it wouldn't have worked. I feel like a lot of that is beauty in sports.
Yeah.
Or like you see a play like in football where the quarterback, he drops back, they're coming at him, he rolls out of the pocket. Right before he's about to get tackled, he throws it just in time. You see the wide receiver, there's a guy just about to block it, but he just gets the pass. It's in the perfect place. He spins around, dodges the next person, gets a touchdown. So it's like, if one thing went wrong there, that would not have been a touchdown. So I feel like a lot of that is beauty in sports. And it also kind of reminds me of beauty in chess. And I know this, you guys might not be as into this, but like a beautiful chess game is like a game where every move you had to make it that way in order to get to checkmate. If you didn't make one move, so you might make a string of like 10 moves where you attack, they defend, then you do the next attack, they do the next defense, and you have to play it out all perfectly.
And if you can ever get a moment where your opponent says, "Oh crap, I didn't see that coming."
Yeah.
Well, I think anyone that plays chess understands the beauty of the game, but at the same time, I'm not really sure like that's beauty. Like I'm not like, it's going back to what we were saying before, right? What it's more like a metaphor for something. It's not that the game is aesthetically pleasing, because it's not, it's like it basically looks the same no matter how you play.
What's beautiful is what goes on in the person's head.
Exactly. But then that's not like visual beauty, at least, it's more a sensation that it's masterful.
It's interesting. It's or impressive, or you
understand the mastery behind it. Like you like it's like it is kind of beauty, but it's intellectual purely. It's not really something that you look at. It's almost artistic, like it's more akin to when you think about Napoleon. I'm not a big, like, I love history, but I'm not a military history guy. But if I were, I imagine I could look at, and if I had that kind of like attention or interest, that I'm interested in Napoleon's life, but I'm not interested in the specific details of a battle. But there are those guys that they want to study what happened in that specific, right?
But I think chess
history guys.
No, but it's similar.
It's similar. They want to know like what kinds of moves Napoleon made in that specific battle, how he thwarted the opponent, and all that. And that's kind of like the same kind of brilliance of chess. It's like a more strategic brilliance, not really so much aesthetic.
Chess is kind of. I think an aesthetic chess game is where every piece is used exactly once. There kind of are aesthetics a little bit. It's like a great checkmate is one where you get every piece active in as few moves as possible.
Yeah, but the problem with that, Michael, is that you only know that because you play chess. Like if you ask say your grandma or something,
So
she
let
would
me
look
see
at
if
the same game and she
let me
would
see
see
if
no
I
beauty in it.
understand. Are you differentiating between beauty you experience with your eyes and beauty you experience with your mind? Are those two things different to you?
Are you asking me or
Yeah.
Michael?
But yeah, like I see a lot of paintings and I have no real emotional reply to it. I just see, you show me the Mona Lisa or any other painting that people say is beautiful, often I'll just have no strong emotional response
Well,
to it.
the Mona Lisa, I would say it's not beautiful.
It's not beautiful.
I
It's
like
Pick
it's-
one that you think is.
it's
I
Yeah.
like
intriguing.
art, but I
Now-
don't think Mona Lisa is beautiful.
The thing that is beautiful about the Mona Lisa is not Mona Lisa.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the execution
Of it.
of what was done to create the Mona Lisa. That's
Right.
what's beautiful.
And the
Yeah.
technique that he used,
Yeah.
which was like this sfumato or whatever it is, that's just, especially during that time, that was groundbreaking.
That assessment that you guys are making, that's a little bit like Michael's assessment of the chess game, right? You're appreciating not the physical beauty of the Mona Lisa, but you're appreciating the mastery behind it.
That's true.
Chess is visual too, though. Like I feel like, yeah, maybe it's more intellectual. Like,
Yeah, but
yeah,
your
I mean-
assessment of chess is that a beautiful chess strategy, of course, has to be a winning strategy,
yeah,
right? That's what makes it beautiful. It can't be. You can't say, "Oh, that's a beautiful strategy," but
but the
you're
reverse
guaranteed
isn't
to lose
true.
every time. Yeah,
So like the reverse. So like not all winning game. Like there are some
You-
games in chess where you just crush the
Right.
opponent, and
Right.
it's not beautiful. It's
Yeah.
just like it just were bad.
Yes,
yeah,
but
Or,
yeah.
like
You just had a
it needs
bad
to be-
opponent.
But it needs to be effective in some way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
like if
it
it's
has to be effective.
if it's a dumb move, you're not gonna think it's beautiful, right?
Yeah,
Right,
But
yeah.
in a painting or in a sculpture, there's no such thing as it's not beautiful because it's there's no winning or losing.
Well, I think that exactly that was my point, that you're making a lot better than I was, but
Mhm.
there is a fundamental difference there, and
Yes.
that's the difference
Yeah.
between the aesthetics and the appreciation of something that is well done.
Right. And yeah,
Which I don't know if it's if it's such an important distinction. I think it seems to be, but you guys don't.
but yeah,
don't seem to
it's
think
hard
that.
to separate it out because you're always looking at the work of art and your stock of knowledge and even your emotion of the moment, and something that might not be beautiful to you, but if you know, for example, what it takes to be able to do something like that, then you say, oh yeah, now I appreciate it more. I'm more impressed now, and that just might be purely subjective. That changes your perspective, and something that to you was like, it's just some boring old thing. Is now you understand how it's been made, then you can't help but changing your attitude towards it, and I guess you really can't separate that.
Well, it seems to me that at least one type of beauty that we're talking about is it's not so much an aesthetic beauty, it's more an appreciation of skill.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
not just how good the skill is, how it's kind of like how the pieces all fit together. Like in a good chess game, it's not that the person that played it was really good at chess. That's not what makes it beautiful. It's that all the pieces contributed in exactly like one way. Like
Right.
it's more like the pieces of the puzzle all came together in a perfect way. So it's
Mhm.
not it's not that you're like an amazing player. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, it's very hard to define.
Well, then you have stuff that is fairly strange. For example, Picasso, which I don't see any beauty in it. On the other hand, I mean, he is considered to be like one of the great artists of the 20th century. Well, perhaps of all time. Um, well, certainly the 20th century, right? So I don't know what you guys' opinion is on Picasso, but I mean, why Picasso supposed to be? Is that supposed to be beautiful, or is that supposed to be art but not beautiful?
Uh,
I'm
So
not
as you
sure
said,
because I don't see beauty
beautiful,
there.
beauty again, and it's in the eye of the beholder, right? You don't see beauty in it, and some people do. I'm There are some Picassos that people rave about, and I say, I guess I see what you mean. And there are others like the Guernica painting, which is beautiful because it's so powerful. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just basically a monochromatic painting, and it is you. But if you know what happened in the Spanish Civil War, then you can see how powerful it is, and that's what makes it beautiful.
I was often not impressed with some of Picasso's work until I saw some of his early work. And I can see in the later work some of the earlier work. Just like when I look at my wife, I see the young girl that I married.
Sure.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because beauty is not just in the object itself, but what you already have in your head.
Yeah.
That affects it. And
I did hear a story that Picasso was sitting in an outdoor cafe and he was sketching something on a napkin or something. He wasn't really happy with it and he watered it up and put it on his plate. And a woman walked up and said, "Can I have that?" He said, "Sure." And she took it and he said, "That'll be $20,000." And she said, $20,000? It took you 4 seconds and you threw it away. He says, "No, ma'am, that took me 60 years."
If you look at Picasso's sketches of bulls, and it's hard to explain what makes it what it is, but they are beautiful. They're just simple pen and ink drawings, and just Google Picasso bull sketch and you'll see a few samples of them. Or especially some which are just bullheads. They're kind of like, it's hard. It's hard to explain why something would be beautiful and another thing would not be.
So is beauty always something visual? Because I was knocking on Michael because of the whole chess thing, but is beauty necessarily a visual phenomenon?
No, music can be beautiful.
Music can be beautiful.
Yeah. But I tend to think, and I could be totally wrong, that the initial beauty, when we say beautiful, not as a metaphor, but really meaning beautiful, I think is visual and auditory, music and visual art
and literature.
Yeah, and that too. Right.
So but that's very different. But that's very different as well.
All happens up there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that
yeah, I'm not talking about the ink on the page.
No, yeah. A beautiful story. So I don't know what beautiful is. Something that gives you pleasure when you behold it or when you.
But we're talking about three completely different things. We're talking about something that we see. We're talking about something that we hear, And we're
something
talking
that
about
we
something that
that
I don't
we
even know how
that
to
we imagine,
describe, but
basically.
that we yeah,
Something that
imagine.
we imagine. And what are we imagining? Something
Yeah,
we
I'm just
imagine
saying that the
seeing
term
and
beauty
hearing
applies to
something.
all of those,
Yeah.
or can.
I think so. So I'm going to say, so I think beauty requires a certain goal in mind, usually. So, like for music, you can't really know why it's beautiful without at least having some idea of what the composer had it like. What kind of feelings they're driving at least, like. Or like with art, a good painting is trying to capture a certain mood or certain feeling or certain something. And if you don't know what it is that the artist is trying to capture, or you're just
Well,
clueless about it,
Well,
Let me ask you something, Michael. Just
Yeah.
and then Raul. Sorry. Beauty and art, are those synonyms, or can you have art that is not beautiful, and in that case, they're very different?
I would think there would be art that's not beautiful, just
Yeah.
like scribbles on a paper, or but then you could say, oh, that's not art. I mean, then we're just talking. I would say art is where they made an effort to convey some kind of emotion or mood or feeling in a visual way. Beauty is when they're successful at that. Yeah.
That's one way of looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not
Yeah.
sure that's accurate though, because
No.
like let me think of for well, in my case it would be clear, like Picasso, for example, doesn't seem to be beautiful to me, to be beautiful, but perhaps you can say, well, but to me, it's very
Well,
beautiful.
what was you have to know? What was he trying to do when he made that painting? Like when he does all his
Well,
cubism.
that's my point. That's my point.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? The Guernica, Raul, if you notice, he didn't say it was beautiful. He said it was powerful.
And
Yeah.
Which is very
and
different
that's what
thing.
makes it beautiful
Well,
for me. Yeah. But yeah,
true. Then you can make that connection, but that's a very
Yeah,
different thing.
yeah,
And I agree
you
with
know.
you. It is powerful, but it's not, it's not beautiful. It's in fact, maybe art can be ugly. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking this gets very tricky.
It's
This
getting
gets very
tricky.
tricky. I think we might have to do a sequel to this conversation.
But yeah, like if you don't, yeah, beauty.
Because for me, it's if something is powerful and delivers a message, then it's beautiful. And there are gradations of some are is to me, then that's why I say it's totally subjective. Some art is more beautiful than this piece and that piece, and some person's view could be totally different from mine, and
Well, the question is, right, yeah, but the question, absolutely. But there's another question as well, that if we are requiring for something to be art, to have that quality of beauty as well, or if that's not a requirement.
I guess you could have bad art. I think beauty is anything that creates a feeling just by looking at it.
Yeah, or beholding it, or hearing it, or
Yeah.
experiencing it. Maybe that's the best.
So like a car, like it matters who's doing it. Like some people look at a car and they just say that's a car. Some people look at a car and it creates all these emotions within them. Maybe they're imagining. Yeah.
It gives you pleasure, I suppose, is the bottom line. To experience something. That's what beauty is.
It gives you pleasure.
Yeah.
Maybe that's yeah. I mean, maybe that's the connection between all those things.
Right. It gives you pleasure. It gives you a feeling that you don't mind prolonging a little bit, and so maybe that's why it's truly just subjective, because even pain can perversely generate pleasure, right? I mean, not excruciating pain, but just
I feel like
something.
it's also like an emotional feeling. So
Oh,
like I said,
yeah.
eating a good pizza or a delicious slice of pizza, you might feel good, but it's not really like a deep emotional feeling.
Right.
It's like a different kind of feeling. Unless
Yeah,
you're like, unless you're a chef, right? If you're a if like I mean even then, not like if you're at like the fanciest restaurant and you're like trying to make the perfect pizza, maybe it could be a beautiful slice of pizza.
I think that's why we say that, for example, for food, when
Yeah.
people use the term beautiful, it's really more a metaphor than
Well, but
like
that is another question that really raises other issues, because for example, in the case of food, you can have very good food, that looks terrible,
yeah.
and you probably wouldn't call it beautiful. You probably wouldn't say it's beautiful. You would just say, well, that tastes really good.
Yeah.
And certainly there are many foods like that. But on the other hand, you can have food that doesn't really taste, if you go to a great restaurant, Michelin 5 stars or whatever, you might have food that actually doesn't really taste all that good, but looks amazing. Right? So that's also confusing, and it kind of like throws a wrench into
Oh
what
no!
we've been
Then you say,
discussing.
"Oh, that dish looks beautiful," but it doesn't do
Yeah,
anything
because
taste-wise.
and what we mean by that is that, again, it has that, what we mean by beautiful is not the excellency or the mastery necessarily. It's just that there is this aesthetic quality to it.
Could be.
Really the raw beauty of it. But it tastes terrible. So that complicates things again.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because there seems to be like this, at least this visual quality of something that is appealing.
Or music.
Yeah.
To me, and this may not be true for everybody, but to me, art or things of beauty. Let me put it this way: if an artist creates a piece of music that is all dissonant sounds and it's just chaotic,
Yeah.
it's just a mess.
Mm.
Most people are not going to like that.
Right.
Also, if you make a piece that is too predictable, a lot of people are not going to like it because it's just too predictable. It's boring. And so to me, good art straddles the line between chaos and the expected. The problem is that line is in a different place for every person who listens to it.
Right.
And so the objective, I think, of successful art of any kind, music, painting, anything, is to straddle that line for as many people as possible. And that doesn't mean that it's good. Popular and good are not always the same thing.
No.
But it might be the difference between success and failure.
Yes, for an artist to be able to make a living. Yeah, I think that, because, for example, Van Gogh, when he was alive, most critics, in fact, I think all critics hated his paintings. That's why he couldn't sell any of them. And his paintings only started to sell after he died, and with a lot of education by basically the widow of his brother, who.
Well, isn't that a little bit because art is, well, in fact, subjective,
Yeah,
at least to
exactly.
that degree, right? Because
Yeah.
like with paintings in particular, they kind of need to conform to a certain expectations that
Right.
critics have at a
Yeah.
certain time in
Yeah.
history.
you know.
So if you present something that is different, yeah, you're not,
Exactly.
it's not going to be well accepted.
Right. And there's I listened to this what you call this video lecture series by an art historian, and there's one line she said, which is, in art, especially when she's talking about visual paintings and sculpture, you like what you know. That's what she said. It's like, a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't like abstract art. I don't get it. It just means nothing to me. Doesn't say anything to me." And she says, you if you put a little time in learning about it, and then you start to appreciate it, and you just might start to like it because of the knowledge base you have and the familiarity you have. And I think there's a lot of truth into that. That I used to be just totally keep that abstract thing away from me. I don't appreciate it at all. I could have made that myself. There's no skill in it, you know.
Yeah, I'm still there.
And I'm still halfway there, but I'm beginning to appreciate because it's not the work. It's a whole. It's hard to explain, but I still don't appreciate art 100%.
There
at
are
least
some abstract pieces that I find attractive,
Yeah,
but I don't know why.
yeah, I do. You know, because it's
I- I
direct
mean,
appeal to the
yeah,
emotion.
I don't find them attractive because they're abstract.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's not because of that.
I
Yeah.
can't put my finger on it.
No.
anyways, should we yeah, I think we had a good discussion today. I think this is maybe a good time to end it, so we don't get bored and so our audience doesn't get bored. But I really enjoyed our discussion. Do you guys have any things that you want to bring up before we finish? Any final words of wisdom, for at least for the listeners?
Beauty. Yeah, I think it comes down to like the feeling that it creates in you. So different people would find different things beautiful. And it's somewhat of I feel like it's somewhat of an emotional feeling. So yeah, I guess like I see chess. Yeah, chess is an intellectual game, but when you're in the heat of the, like, it kind of, I mean, you guys saw the Queen's Gambit, right? Like that's there was a lot of emotion in that, right? So it's kind of beauty is very related to the.
That's a beautiful show. That's a beautiful
show. Yeah. But yeah, it's very related to the feeling that it makes you feel.
I have something related to what is beauty, and it's related, and it's more in music. What makes a sad melody sad? You know,
it makes you feel sad.
Yes, but why does it make you feel sad? And is it consistent across all cultures? You know, for example, I listened to, and I've known this since I was 3 or 4 years old. I do remember, this is the piece of classical music I remember the most. Have the most vivid memory. Chopin's Etude Number 3. If you don't, it's da 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 da. And if you hear it first, and it's a piano piece, and I remember I was 3 or 4. I heard it. I felt sad. Just me, and without knowing it, the title is Tristesse, I guess, sad song or whatever. Why is it sad? Why does it make you sad? And do all cultures find that piece of music sad? And if not, what is sad for other cultures?
I think certain notes like cause a certain biological reaction. So it like might cause your heart to like sink. But like some notes cause your heart to speed up.
Yeah.
Some note. Yeah, there's like
I agree with that, but is
Major and
that
minor chords.
is that consistent across all cultures? I don't know.
Hmm.
You know, if you play a sad song, for example, to a population, for a community that has only known, you know, chanting and percussion, you know.
You know the saddest
I don't know.
song I've ever heard? I just heard this at a kava bar yesterday. Yesterday by the Beatles. You know the song Yesterday by the Beatles?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty sad. Yeah.
That's the saddest song I've ever heard, I feel like.
But is it sad without the lyrics? If you hadn't known the lyrics?
I think so, because I don't usually pay attention to
Yeah.
lyrics all that
Yeah.
much in song.
And so what makes it sad? Yeah, I don't
The
know.
It's-
violin, the note,
I
yeah.
think
the note.
I think it's actually a wonder, right? How these
Yeah.
instrumental notes
Yeah.
create these feelings.
I mean,
But
I
they
know
do.
what
They do.
I know what makes it sad, because certain chords, you know, as I said, minor chords and whatever chord patterns somehow stir something in us. But again, my question is that biological or is that cultural?
No, I think
I
that's
don't know.
probably biological.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just guessing, but I can't really
Yeah.
see how it could be cultural.
Yeah.
It's such a primal thing.
As I said, we don't know how other cultures, because I've listened to, for example, traditional Indian music, and they have a totally different scale, and it's described in the liner notes as this, you know, it's a sad music or a happy celebration, and I think tempo, how fast it is, goes into it, but it doesn't register to me that this piece is sad when it was described as sad. And so I don't know. Maybe if I listen more to Indian music, then I would start to
Well, some
understand
things
it.
that may sound sad to some people
Yeah,
sound introspective to other people.
exactly. Yeah,
No.
yeah. So who knows?
I think there's a certain baseline, at least, that
Right.
humans are not all that different. I don't think.
Oh
I mean,
yeah, I agree.
and those notes, I think, it's very hard to think. There are just some silly instrumental songs. They're clearly supposed to be to cheer up people. I don't think people would listen to that from different culture and think, "Whoa, this is making me sad,
Right.
nostalgic." I don't.
Yeah.
I think that there is it's incredible how that's the case, right? Like, because
Yeah.
lyrics, obviously, you're trying to elicit sadness or nostalgia or happiness or excitement, but with the notes, it's almost like a magic that happens.
Yeah. You know,
which
and
is
what
quite-
happens if
quite
you put
crazy.
if you put happy lyrics on a sad melody? I wonder how that works. You know.
That would be interesting. I'm sure they've done that. I'm sure
Yeah.
someone has done that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
You know what? Billy Joel, I feel like, does that a lot. Sometimes he has happy lyrics on a sad song, and sometimes he has sad lyrics on like a happy song.
Yes, I've seen sad lyrics on an upbeat song, and you listen to it.
Joni Mitchell did a thing on the Blue album. I think you're all familiar with the Christmas song Jingle Bells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She did that in minor chords
Right.
and made a sad song of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Jingle Bells is a happy song.
Yeah.
But she made a sad song of it.
Yeah. Or
Right.
American Pie.
Yeah.
Right? You'd think it's a happy song just from the tempo and the, and then you listen to the music, the lyrics, and hey, wait a minute, that's not,
Yeah, I think that's kind of a little different, right? Because that's you're trying to subvert something on purpose.
Sure. Yeah.
And
that's what
you
makes
also
it
have
beautiful, actually.
Well,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
When it works, it works. When
Yeah.
it works, it works.
Yeah.
But I think it's certainly more difficult if you're only using notes, musical notes, and then I mean, anyways.
Okay.